Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakachaja Satara Sata Shri Śrimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chandravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Dāsa Thakur Ki Granta Raj Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi. All glory to some of the devotees. All glory to some of the devotees. All glory to some of the devotees. All glory to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga and Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, bro. Continued reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Additional Pastimes, chapter titled A Visit to Boston. Srila Prabhupada wrote Hamsarūpa from India, asking him to try and get him an appointment as a lecturer at a university in Boston. Such an appointment, Prabhupada reasoned, would enable him to easily obtain permanent residency in the U.S. Hamsarūpa first went to Harvard, where administrators and faculty members simply sent him from office to office. Although some of them seemed curious to hear about the learned Swami, his books, and his mission, none seriously considered endorsing the Swami as a member of the Harvard faculty. Hamsarūpa continued, however, walking from office to office, wrapped in thought of Swamiji, praying to be a better and more effective disciple. Keenly he felt the lack of appreciation of these educators for that person who was actually the most valuable teacher of all. A famous Sanskrit professor in his cubbyhole within the Widner Library gave half an hour to hearing from Hamsarūpa about the Swami and talking to him about the Vedas. But the professor was unable to sign a letter requesting that the Swami come to America. Finally, after several days at Harvard, Hamsarūpa managed to reserve a hall in a fraternity house for a single evening in November. The most difficult part was to persuade the house clerk to type a letter on the fraternity's letterhead acknowledging that Swami Bhaktivedanta would lecture at the hall for one night in November. Although it was only a tiny victory, Hamsarūpa was pleased nonetheless. He sent the Harvard letter to Swamiji, who gratefully acknowledged it, but added that an appointment as lecturer would have been better. November came and Swamiji was still in India, so Hamsarūpa, Pradyumna, and Jadharani attended the engagement themselves, handling lively debates with the students. The Harvard Crimson printed a picture of the devotees, describing them as prophets. Srila Prabhupada said he liked that in his absence, his disciples were acting as prophets of Krishna consciousness. One night, about 2 weeks before Prabhupada left India for San Francisco, Satsvarup dreamed that Swamiji had already come to Boston. When he wrote Prabhupada about this, Prabhupada replied, "You have described in your letter that my presence again before you will be wonderful. I quite agree that it will be wonderful to be with you. Your sincere prayer to Lord Nrsingadeva is helping me to recuperate my health, and you'll be glad to know that I am arriving in San Francisco on 14th December. I can understand that you're all thinking of me 24 hours, and therefore, Satsvarup had a dream that I had gone to Boston and was enjoying your company." On December 14, 1967, Srila Prabhupada arrived in San Francisco. The next day, a devotee there phoned the devotees in Boston and told them the details of Swamiji's arrival. He said he might even be able to arrange for Swamiji to speak to them on the phone. At least he would try. Then one night the phone rang in the Boston storefront, and it was Swamiji. Radharani, who answered, said she had heard that Swamiji had looked very healthy at the airport and that he had been walking quickly and was tanned from the sun. When Prabhupada mentioned that he had traveled all the way from India by himself, Radharani corrected, "But Krishna was with you." Satsvarup was next. "Swamiji," he began, "we miss you very much." And Prabhupada replied, "Yes, and I am hearing you also." Then Pradyumna spoke to Prabhupada, explaining how he was trying to advertise Śrimad Bhāgavatam. Afterwards, each devotee related to the others what Swamiji had said. Each admitted to having said at least one very foolish thing to Swamiji, but they agreed that everything Swamiji had said had been wonderful. Satsvarup's and Pradyumna's happiness became so great that they couldn't restrain themselves from rolling on the floor. On the phone, Prabhupada had said that when he had left America, he had very little hope of returning. But Krishna had informed him that he was not going to die immediately, so he had returned. He had said that he was getting inspiration in Krishna consciousness from his own disciples, whom he considered to be good souls. Prabhupada later wrote to Boston devotees from San Francisco, "Although officially I am your spiritual master, I consider all you students as my spiritual master, because your love for Krishna and service for Krishna teach me how to become a sincere Krishna conscious person." He then told them that although there were only three devotees, they should each work for 300. A Krishna conscious person, Prabhupada explained, is never tired of working. Prabhupada saw this as a symptom of spiritual advancement in his disciples, many of whom never tired of devotional service and always wanted to be overloaded with more and more work. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, 4th Canto, 2nd Chapter, texts 23 and 24. Chapter titled, Daksha Curses Lord Shiva. Everyone have that on their phone, on their device? Okay, we'll read 23 and chant 24. There's no purport to 23. Buddhya para vidyayina vishram ritatmagati pashu stri kama so stvatitaram daksha basta mukho chirat. Translation. Daksha has accepted the body as all in all. Therefore, since he has forgotten the Vishnu Pad or the Vishnu Gati and is attached to sex life only, within a short time he will have the face of a goat. Text 24, we can chant this. Vidya buddhir vidyayam. Vidya buddhir vidyayam. Karmamayang asojada. Karmamayam asojada. Sangsaran tvihaye chamun. Sangsaran tvihaye chamun. Anusavavamaninam. Anusavavamaninam. Please chant. Vidya buddhya vidyayam. Amamayam asojada. Sangsarantuyaye chamun. Anusavavamaninam. Kamamayang asojada. Sangsarantuyaye chamun. Anusavamaninam. Vidya buddhir vidyayam. Kamamayang asojada. Sangsarantuyaye chamun. Anusavaatmananinam. Kamamayang asojada. Sangsarantuyaye chamun. Anusavavamaninam. Vidya buddhir vidyayam. Kamamayang asojada. Sangsarantuyaye chamun. Anusavavamaninam. Ladies. Anyone else? Vidya buddhi. Materialistic education and intelligence. Avidyayam. In-nescience. Karmamayam. Formed of fruitive activities. Aso. He. Daksha. Jada. Dull. Sangsarantu. Let them take birth again and again. Iha. Here in this world. Ye. Who. Cha. And. Amum. Daksha. Anu. Following. Sarva. Shiva. Avamaninam. Insulting. Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Those who have become as dull as matter by cultivating materialistic education and intelligence are nesciently involved in fruitive activities. Such men have purposely insulted Lord Shiva. May they continue in the cycle of repeated birth and death. Please repeat. Those who have become as dull as matter by cultivating materialistic education and intelligence are nesciently involved in fruitive activities. Such men have purposely insulted Lord Shiva. May they continue in the cycle of repeated birth and death. Purport. The three curses mentioned above are sufficient to make one as dull as stone, void of spiritual knowledge, and preoccupied with material education, which is nescience. After uttering these curses, Nandishwar then cursed the Brahmanas to continue in the cycle of birth and death because of their supporting Daksha in blaspheming Lord Shiva. Om Jnana Tamrandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshuramatamaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankai Tegaram Yakripatamaham Vandeshu Gurum Tiratanam. Translation again. Those who have become as dull as matter by cultivating materialistic education and intelligence are nesciently involved in fruitive activities. Such men have purposely insulted Lord Shiva. May they continue in a cycle of repeated birth and death. So these curses are not, sometimes we relate to curses being as I curse you to this, I curse you to that, some specific curse. But these are very subtle curses. Make one as dull as stone. You know, obviously stone is, sometimes we say in the vernacular of America, thick as a brick. But it means the same thing. Dull as stone means booty ne. Or what do they say in India? Bansky booty. Yeah? So they have like this, different types of way of saying someone is dull. At least in Vrindavan. You hear it all the time. This person is Bansky booty. So we have to be careful how easily it is to become affected. And these curses are not just like we have the Śrimad Bhāgavatam. If one ignores the teachings that we're listening to daily, then he is factually cursed. Because he's not taking good instruction. So what is the difference if one is sitting in the Śrimad Bhāgavatam class and he's hearing, but he's not assimilating the instructions of the Bhāgavatam? So then it's described that these ear holes are like the ear holes of what? Of a snake. On a snake, there are holes, but they're not for hearing. And so this is also another, in the Vedas, in the Shastra, described that one has ear holes like those of a snake. They're just for show. They may be very nice. They may be very big. Prabhupada commented one time that big ears is a sign of intelligence. One is born with this particular trait. And if you look at the pictures of the saints, like or incarnations like Buddha, said that they have very long ears for hearing. One of those particular traits, sign of intelligence. So of course, having these physical traits is not a prerequisite. It's not a criteria. If one has come in contact with a bona fide spiritual master, mukam karoti vachalam pangum lankai degurim. Even if one is dull, even if he's lame, even if he's blind, he will get this knowledge if he's sincere, by hook or crook. Right? If he's deaf and dumb, he can still read. If he's blind, he can hear. So there's no disqualification due to some physical issues. It's just a matter of sincerity. Prabhupada said the only thing required for success in spiritual life is sincerity. Because even if one is making a mistake, he will not take that. He will simply, as a finality, he will get up. It's like when someone is learning to ride a bicycle. When you're teaching your kids to ride a bicycle, they fall down repeatedly, not just once. But they get up again and again until they get it. So this is also our situation. We may have some problems to control our senses, to control our tongue. But Krishna has given us such nice prasadam, isn't that correct? Swaprasad anadilobai. Just to control the tongue. It's the most voracious and difficult to control. So there's two things. The tongue is meant for tasting and vibrating. And so in Krishna consciousness, we have no difficulty in engaging the tongue. And of course, for one who's preaching, then he's in an even more secure position because he's become an instrument, and therefore Krishna will protect him. But if one is not, so what are those two designations? Bhajananandi and Goshtianandi. Already you've learned that in class from Radhe Shyam. He's given that definition. Bhajananandi and Goshtianandi. Not yet? Or you don't remember? Okay, Bhajananandi means one who practices but doesn't preach. So Prabhupada said, we are not Bhajananandis. We are Goshtianandis. Goshtianandi means one who practices and preaches. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared that this is best. There sometimes you'll see in comparison, you'll see good, better, and best. Right? Some product on the market, you go online and they show you this comparison. They want you to spend more money. So they say, this is good, has a cheap price. This is better, a little bit better quality. Then they have best, of course. And they're emphasizing. Why? Because it's more expensive. It implies that there's better craftsmanship, better materials, everything better, therefore more expensive. So there's so many things in spiritual life we can adopt. There's 9 processes. Right? And the devotees are famous for incorporating all 9 into their sadhana. Nothing is left out. Although even one can bring perfection. If one, of course, there has to be some dedication. You know, we are not in that position of Dhruva Maharaj or Prahlad Maharaj or, you know, or any of these Mahajans. But we are following in their footsteps. So therefore the path, the goal, the destination is guaranteed. Right? There's no loss or diminution. Even if one is temporarily delayed. It's like sometimes you go to catch the train and all of a sudden you see it's delayed for 1 hour. So you're sitting there, what to do? Chant Hare Krishna. The train comes and you will eventually get to your destination. So what you do in that idle time, that's important. You just waste it, what do? Pull out your phone, you start scrolling. Let me post to my Instagram, let me post to this, no. Best thing is you keep a book, you find someone to preach to. One time when we were very young, we were in India for the festival, maybe 77 or 78. And we had gone into Calcutta. In those days, there was not so much restriction, not so much security. Well, we had some security, but not like today. So I was in charge of all the passports for the New York temple. We had a big party in India. And there's 2 reasons. One is that this way devotees don't lose them, misplace them, or leave without permission. So I was holding all the passports. So then when it came time to book everyone's flight back to wherever we were going at that point, we could have been going to Delhi or Mumbai or back to the States. We would take the train in the morning, go to the Air India building with a whole bunch of these passports and change and book tickets for every single person. No questions asked. You have the passport, you present it, they stamp it, they make the thing, ready to go. But we're trying to, but of course in India, everything doesn't go exactly as you want. The officers are late. And then you go, and what are they doing? They're taking tea, and then they're taking lunch, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting. Can we please get our passports back? We have to go. We have to catch the train. Because there's so many trains you could take to go back to Mayapur, but only one last fast train leaves at 3 o'clock. And then you're back to Navadvip very quickly, 2 hours. Otherwise, if you miss that train, you have to take the meter gauge. That train they call, very nicely, what do they call? Every town and village. Every town and village. Why? Because it's a local train for the commuters. It stops at every single little place where somebody wants to get on or get off. That train takes minimum 5 hours. Minimum. And it is not comfortable because it's commuter train. Benches are wooden. It's not clean. It's crowded. So you're trying to avoid to take this train at all costs. And we're rushing and rushing. And just as we get to the platform, the train is pulling out. So then we're stuck on the platform. But we have our japa. We're not said, okay, we're resigned. We won't get back till late night now. But this is Krishna's arrangement. But the other problem with missing that train is that all the students get out of school. This is Calcutta, 1977, 78. Huge problem with CPM, Naxalites. These students are very anti-Western. And so you really don't want to be around them. And they come and they mob you. Because devotees are not afraid, but it's an annoyance. So there we could see, as soon as the train pulls out, all these students coming from the other end of the platform. This is Selda, 2 train stations in Calcutta, Selda and Howrah. So these people are coming, and we know this is going to be not pleasant, but we just keep chanting. But as soon as they see us, 2 Westerners, they immediately surround us. Immediately surround us. And what do they start? They're very intimidating. They immediately start chanting, CIA, CIA, CIA. Of course, when there's a group like this, they can become a little bit emboldened. There's only 2 of us and 20 plus of them. And they're going around like that, and they're getting a little more threatening, a little more threatening. In those days, brahmacharis, we always had our shoulder bag. Everyone has seen. You buy them in the market in Loy Bazaar or in Navadvip. They're quilted, and inside you keep your whatever you want. Brahmachari was always prepared. He had his gamsha, he had his kartals, he had his Bhagavad Gita. At least those things. And I had my nectar devotion. And so they're chanting and chanting, so I said, what to do? It's becoming a little uncomfortable. So they're chanting, CIA, CIA. So I made a very quick move, and I stuck my hand in my bag like this. And they immediately, and I pulled out a nectar devotion. And I opened the nectar devotion, I started reading from the top of my lungs. Srila Rupa Goswami says, and I just kept reading, and reading and reading and reading. In 5 minutes, they all faded away. But they didn't want to hear nectar devotion. They didn't want to hear Rupa Goswami. And so there was of course we're young at this time, 27, 28, like that, but there was a gentleman who was standing on the side, and he was just watching this whole thing. And when they all scattered, he came up and he apologized. He said, I'm so sorry. I said, our culture has deteriorated so much due to this influence. What is this communist? Where does this come from? Marxism and communism. And he said, your spiritual master, he is our home fellow, because he's from Calcutta. This is Calcutta. And he had to leave here to go to the West. And look at you. You've come here and you've adopted this culture, and these people are rejecting this culture. He was so emotional. He's practically in tears. Anyway, we just accepted, nicely, thank you. We're not doing anything special, just. So then the train finally comes in. So what do the students do? They immediately, even though there's women, children, they're all elderly people, no culture, completely lost. They immediately rush in, occupy all the seats. You know, pushing everybody out of the way like this. But then this gentleman, he had had enough by that time. He immediately became a different person, like Nishugadev. He started roaring in the train. And I don't understand Bengali. But you could tell that what he's saying is total humiliation for these students. Total humiliation. What they should have heard from their parents and teachers. And so their heads are going a little lower. And finally he told them to leave. And now we can understand now. And they all got up and they left that car. And then, you know, I was waiting for the elderly people to sit down. He said, no, you sit down first. And as soon as we sat down, everybody else sat down. So this is the nature of India. So we're reading here. Here's what can be. And so he immediately said, can we please have kirtan? Can we do kirtan? You know, it was not. So we're in Bengal, where we feel like we're almost like foreigners, but at the same time, we're representatives of the culture of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we feel that this is Prabhupada's arrangement, that we would come back, here's white elephants, come to India, just to show that this is actually your culture, but you have lost it. And so anyway, we started to do the kirtan. We had our kartals, luckily, and we played. And that kirtan went all the way from Howrah, from Selda, all the way to Krishnanagar, because the meter gauge goes to Krishnanagar. It doesn't go. We were expecting to go to Navadvip, but when we missed that train, you end up in Krishnanagar. But all the time through there, such a sweet kirtan, everybody on the car, and people came from other cars to join the kirtan. It is. So it's such a nectar experience. So Krishna takes these experiences, he turns them around. What we thought was going to be a very dull situation, you know, with nothing, and Krishna immediately puts it around. So we're just the opposite of cursed. We are so blessed by Srila Prabhupada that it's impossible to calculate our good fortune. Not in millions of years can we calculate our good fortune. But we can make an attempt to repay the debt. And that is to develop the determination to execute his order and the order of his spiritual master in turn. In this way, we are parampara servants. So we carry with us a very, it's not a burden. It's a burden of love. But at the same time, we should feel the weight. We shouldn't take it very casually. Sometimes we take it casually. What did Prabhupada say in Leelamrita we're just reading? The devotees are working all the time, continuously. They're not working for 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. Continuously, Prabhupada said 4 a.m. till 10 p.m. That is the standard. You may not be on that standard now, but if you don't understand what that standard is, you may be shortchanged in your ability to experience the highest taste in Krishna consciousness. Because to develop that Vishaya vinivartante niharashidena rasavajam rasopyasya paramjasvanavartate. How can you, if you are not engaged, it says ceasing such engagements, engage in material, you're experiencing a higher taste. So ceasing such engagements means to dedicate your entire existence to the order of the spiritual master. Not part-time, not 20%, not 30%, not this is my time, this is your time. You know, we are the kept dogs of the spiritual master. We don't do anything independently. To the extent that one considers himself an independent person, to that extent how can you say? As you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. It's important to hear these things. You don't tell somebody the lowest standard. You tell them the higher standard. Why is it called to chase the rhinoceros? Why did Prabhupada say, shoot for the rhinoceros? He didn't say shoot for the squirrel, shoot for the rat. You're shooting for the Lord. You're attempting to express yourself through service in the most, how can you say, proficient way, using everything you have. You know, sometimes they'll give you, when you're going for employment or anything, some proficiency test, which is in one sense, to see what is the context and content of your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Because it is not just one thing. Okay? You know, Prabhupada used the term expert, and he defined it as the ability to do something quickly and efficiently. Quickly and efficiently. Not just it takes 10 years to do it. That's not expert. Quickly and efficiently. So we have to learn this art, because this time is not ours. This time belongs to Krishna. And to the extent we use it in His service, to that extent we will Tyaktva deham puna janma nayati mamiti. Prabhupada gave the example. Someone is thinking that I will give you, Krishna, 20% of my time, 200 rupees. And Prabhupada said, yes. So Krishna, He's not foolish. He says, yes, no problem. I will give you also 200 rupees worth of my reciprocation. So how do we measure Krishna's reciprocation? By one's ability to engage in service to the maximum extent of his capacity. Not to the minimum, to the maximum. But someone is thinking, no, I have to take care. Yes, we do. It is common sense. We take care of ourselves to keep the body fit for serving Krishna. But not to the extent that there's no service for Krishna and only I'm taking care of my body. This is the analogy like the bird in the cage, Prabhupada says. We're taking care of the external cage, but we're not taking care of the soul within. We have to know. Both of them have to be healthy. Right? If you don't water the creeper properly, what happens? In your garden, there's weeds. If you don't take care to extract these weeds, they're there all the time. There's so many. It's a constant. It's not that you can relax and say, okay, I'll leave this, I won't pull any weeds for 1 month. No, you'll have a jungle. It requires constant care and attention. Yeah? So therefore, it's also called razor's edge. Just a little deviation can create havoc. So sometimes there are accidents. It happens. Right? This incident with Daksha is not an accident. So what constitutes an offense? Blaspheming the boys who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. So what does that mean? Does it mean I have to go and curse that person in order to qualify as an aparadi? No. You know, one's mind has to be carefully controlled. And these matsarya, this envy and jealousy leading to madness. So these things are all aspects of ingredients of committing offenses. Somehow or other, I'm projecting my faults onto that person. And I'm finding fault with him for no reason, except just to make myself feel better. You know, he's such and such. That minimize. What did I say in They also have some very good instructions sometimes. It says when you point your finger at someone else, there's 4 fingers, 3 fingers, 4 fingers pointed back at you. You're trying to find fault in that person with that 1 finger, but there's 3 fingers reminding you that first clear your own faults. So this is practical consideration, but offense means something which is done repeatedly. One may accidentally, out of whatever, carelessness or complacency, he may commit some offense. But he can immediately rectify it, and he should. Because without any attempt at rectification, then that offense will take effect. It may be lying as a seed now, but it will eventually fructify, and you will get the result. So you cannot leave it like that. One has to find some way to correct the mistake. But this is not for the devotee. Devotees are very tolerant. So we're not concerned so much about our own. Srinadapi, Srinichena, Taro api Sahishana. We're cultivating this. Why? Because there's so many things which can agitate you in the material world. The one should become bulletproof. You should not let anything bother him, except in this situation here, where there's blasphemy of a pure devotee. And those who have dedicated their lives to the Lord, Prabhupada said, all my disciples are pure devotees. So in that way we can understand that there should never be any consideration for minimizing or finding fault with anyone in your God family. One should be very careful in his dealings with others. Because it's a symptom. If one is careless or complacent or frivolous, then there could be a problem. So this way we're learning from this situation that Nandishwar, Prabhupada said, is also at fault. For cursing all of the Brahmins. He wasn't being specific. And so this is indiscriminate. Okay? And a devotee is not like that. He understands exactly everything in context. What to do, what not to do. He doesn't just go and make some blanket statement. We hear this all the time. All the devotees are such and such. No. Do you know all the devotees? What is your experience? But people say it all the time. So we should be very careful not to follow in the footsteps of Nandishwar. We can be specific. We can stand up and protect the pure devotees and his sincere followers. But we should not make the mistake of trying to paint the entire community of devotees or brahmanas with that broad brush of whatever, anger. So we have a big day today, Sunday feast. There'll be many people coming. We have to prepare ourselves to receive them properly, and that usually, from Prabhupada's perspective, means that the temple should be very welcoming. What does that mean? It means clean and fresh. And so we have lots of things to consider. We have Even within the temple room, we have areas that can be cleaned up. Things which can be put elsewhere. And don't have to be shoved in a corner. So we should take it upon ourselves, maybe do a little extra service. Doesn't require some instruction from any particular person. An intelligent person says, what can I do with these things? Where can I put them? How can I help to organize? Because a devotee, someone who's cultivating the mood of a devotee, is always looking for engagement. How I can serve. I can serve. When you meet the spiritual master, you don't say, what you can do for me. You say, how can I serve you? This is our mood. This is how we're cultivating our exchanges. Should always be ready to serve the Vaishnavas. Right? So that's one thing. Should always be ready to serve the Vaishnavas. And so this, when you come in contact with a devotee, a pure devotee, or any devotee, Krishna will give you an opportunity to serve. If you're not so eager to serve, if you're not looking for engagement, then Krishna knows from within your heart this person is not serious or sincere. That's the qualification. I can give you a personal example. It doesn't. You can take it for what it's worth. I was a new bhakta. We were there. I had missed Prabhupada's arrival in April of 1974. But Prabhupada came to New York every year. So we're always anticipating that Prabhupada will come again. And when he comes, the temple, we immediately go into a certain type of mode. That everything which has been neglected for a year now has to be immediately fixed. And so there's Prabhupada's quarters used to face the Henry Street in Brooklyn. We had two brownstones, and Prabhupada was in the adjacent brownstone. We had 439 and 437. So Prabhupada was in a separate ground floor. That was his private apartment. And so because it faced the street, there were many rascals in that time who didn't like Krishna. They used to throw stones. We had to put metal wire over the windows because they used to throw rocks through them. But then still they would shoot BBs and whatnot. So when Prabhupada would come, I would have to change so much glass in the windows. So I would fix those things, whatever was. But I was just a bhakta. But I had some desire to serve Prabhupada, and there was no one to ask in that sense. I mean, we don't go and say, can I go do this or do that? No. But within, there's some desire. Krishna reciprocates. And so the temple commander comes and says, can you do this? Do you know how to do this? I said, yes, why not? So the opportunity was there. So I got a chance to remain in Prabhupada's quarters fixing things up until the day he arrived. Up until the day he arrived, we were doing something continuously, practically 24 hours a day. So therefore we developed that mood, how to serve 24 hours a day. You know, nowadays that mood is a little bit lost. But it's to everyone's advantage to try to cultivate to the extent he can. Because Krishna will give you more and more realization based on that surrender. And we know that. We read that. Even though we were neophytes. When we read Yayatamam Prapadyante, it was very clear as it could possibly be, crystal clear. That the more you surrender to Krishna, the more he reciprocates. It's like if I tell you that if you work 24 hours a day, you'll get $1 million. Work 6 hours a day, you'll get 10. So which would you rather have, $1 million or $10? So it's common sense, but people don't recognize that because they don't know how to equate this exchange. They still see things materially. Oh, but this is my sleeping time, or this is my study time, or this is my laundry time. Yes, all these things have to be there to the minimum as much as possible regarding bodily necessity, except for reading. Reading, one can read as much as he can, but to the extent that he reads and he's not engaged, then this is what we said, Bhajananandi. We're not Bhajananandis. You have to practice, preach. These things have to be there in conjunction. If you're reading and you're not engaging, then what is the use of that reading? You're not getting the desired effect. So be careful. However you structure your schedule, be careful that you're not wasting time, because time is very quick. This is your youth, is the time to expend as much of your energy as possible in serving Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. You have plenty of time in old age to sit back and read and retire to the Holy Dham. Because youth is meant to serve Krishna and Prabhupada. It's not meant for wasting it. All right, Prabhupada quoted Shakespeare. Anyone know that quote? I believe it was Shakespeare, but Prabhupada quoted many. He was a very learned person. He quoted Shakespeare, he quoted Wadsworth, he quoted Longfellow, he quoted Keats, quoted Milton. Prabhupada was very well read. So he said, this quote is, "In my youth, I wasted time. Now doth time waste me." Okay? And this is what time is, the destroyer. And imperceptibly, every moment, you're either using it for Krishna or you're using it for yourself. And Krishna is seeing this. So once you realize that, you use your time accordingly. There's plenty of time, depending on what you do and what your service is. If you're a Grihasta, you'll have other engagements. Maybe you have to study some technical course, like that you're studying in school, in order to become proficient and become Grihasta and support the family. But again, this should be done to the minimum extent required to get that position. And once you get that position, you should figure out how I can use this position to serve Krishna. Whether it's accumulating funds, whether it's accumulating knowledge in order to open a temple at some point, to acquire certain skills. But everything should be dovetailed. Nothing should be wasted, but nothing should be overindulged. Don't be so consumed by some material activity that your spiritual life is compromised. It's very easy to do, because the tendency is there. I want to, and you'll see, when people go to work in these corporations, funny, there was one news article, one banking company, they have a certain division of funds management. And in funds management, you're getting commission, depending on the performance of a portfolio or how much you can encourage people to join that portfolio, to invest their funds. And so they had in this one, guys were working 100 hours a week. 100 hours a week. And what happened? One of their guys died. They don't know exactly what. 100 hours a week. And so now a big shakeup within that corporation. The head of that division was demoted. They have to do a whole new policy, change how this happened like this. This is immaterial. What did he get for that 100 hours? He got a nice place in Narak. No benefit. So we don't work like that. You see devotees all the time. I mean, one of my god brothers, his brother was a Sankirtan devotee. And the Sankirtan devotees used to go all around in vans. Winter, summer, it didn't matter, whatever the season was. And the winter time, sometimes they would cook using a propane stove or a kerosene stove. It's very dangerous in an enclosed space. This is how Ainger died also. So it was very cold one night, so they must have been thinking, we'll keep the stove on for heat, or we'll keep the engine running. I can't remember which one. Both are the same. They both produce carbon monoxide and remove oxygen. And so they were parked in the parking lot, and one person noticed that the driver was slumped over the wheel. He could have been sleeping. But the same person came back several hours later and saw him in the same position, so they told the police. So the police went to the van, and they found that the driver was dead. And then they opened up the van, and they found that there was 4 devotees in the van. 2 more had died. And one devotee who was sleeping on the floor, one devotee who was on the bunk who died, he rolled over, and he had woken him up. Somehow or other, because he was on the floor, there's oxygen closer to the floor. So these devotees were distributing Prabhupada's books all day long, just taking a little rest at night and trying to keep warm. And Krishna took them back to Godhead. Of course, and my godbrother's brother was one of the ones who had died. So these things happen. But this is not like the death of a person who worked 100 hours trying to make money for his family. No. These deaths are actually glorious. And we lament that it's unfortunate that in their youth, they're all young men, 18, 19, 20 years old, driving all around the country distributing Prabhupada's books. So we take that risk. So someone is thinking, I'm just sitting in the temple, what am I doing? There's no risk involved. You're not going to die of carbon monoxide poisoning here. You're not going to freeze to death. Even sometimes, even if Mukundashraya forgets to turn up the heat, you're not going to die. Right? In the military, they have a joke. Because basic training in the military is nothing. It's so severe. Even compared to what we do. We wake up early. They wake up early, then they go out and they exercise. They do heavy physical strenuous exercise all day long. Do some severe training. And then they have a joke. They have the punchline is, but you didn't die. See? But you didn't die. So only, people who are self-absorbed think that I have a need to engage proportionately. Negotiate my debt to the spiritual master. You cannot negotiate your debt to the spiritual master. It was 100% due immediately upon receipt. When you took initiation, the debt was due immediately. Everything else, there's interest. Every day, we're not endeavoring to repay that debt. Every day, there's interest accumulating. Compounded daily. So if you're not striving 100% every day to repay that debt, then there's a percentage that is rolling over. So you have to be careful. Don't think I'll do just the opposite. I'll surrender when I'm old. No, you may not have the chance. Trust no future, however pleasant. Isn't that another Shakespeare? Trust no future, however pleasant. Someone paints a very nice picture. Oh yeah, you can retire in Vrindavan, you'll live a life of peace. No. Many devotees don't make it there. So don't think that I can postpone my engagement somehow or other by some mental adjustment. Because that's what it is. It's a mental adjustment. I'm thinking. Prabhupada said if you begin a sentence with I think, you should end it in a closet. Because it's foolish. Who says I think? Either you know or you don't know. So we should remember that, what Prabhupada said. If you start a sentence with I think, you should finish it in a closet. Prabhupada is very practical. His instructions were just meant for us. We could accept them very easily. And we understood his import. So we're very fortunate. And here we have still the Bhaktivedanta purports. So take this philosophy very seriously and engage in it to the maximum extent. Take advantage of the situation. You may not get another chance. Who knows? When you get married, all of a sudden 20 years are gone. Slaving hard behind a monitor, to take care of the family. And you're thinking, oh, I wish I could just be back with the devotees serving Radha Govinda. So don't be in that situation. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na sochati na kankshati. Samak sarveshu bhuteshu. Okay? Don't be in that position where you're lamenting or hankering. Okay? By engaging in this, you'll automatically achieve the highest benefit, the highest result. And you should take it, whatever you get, and use that as the impetus to increase. Don't be like a miser. Okay, I've gotten a little bit of a taste. Let me just try to stay at this level. I can enjoy it. I like Kirtan, I'll just stay on this platform. Kirtan is a very safe platform. But is it the topmost platform? No. It's a safe platform. You can engage. There are many so-called Kirtaniyas all around. They're doing Kirtan all the time. Very safe. But is that from what did Prabhupada tell us in that respect? That this is not for show. And it is not for money. So the only Kirtan should be here in the temple, in front of the deities, or out on Harinam. Then you're protected. So let's get work repaying our debt and see how much we can repay today. Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Questions we'll have afterwards. It's too late, quarter after. Thank you all for coming and listening. And if you have questions, we can discuss later. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki.